Hello, this is Chris Pratt from Eurogamer, joined by, well, if you're a regular reader of Eurogamer, you'll know his name very well. It's Mr. Dan Whitehead.
Hello.
The man that has reviewed just so many video games. I genuinely don't think I know anyone that has reviewed as many games as you. Today, we're talking about the latest game you're reviewing, which is Just Cause 3. First of all, do you know if you're giving the game any kind of badge? The review goes live later on today.
Well, spoiler alert, there is no badge for Just Cause 3. It's not quite good enough that I'd feel it deserves a recommended, so it just kind of missed out on that.
Why not? Why didn't it deserve anything higher?
Well, it's a huge game. It's absolutely massive. It takes you at least sort of 30 hours to finish the story, basically, because it keeps asking you to go away and sort of clear up provinces around the place, so you can't just plough through the story missions.
I believe the word they use is liberate, which is a strange word to describe blowing everything up that is coloured red.
Yeah, you're freeing these people by demolishing their homes.
And their economy. Pretty much everything that's red, from what
Basically,
I remember.
the whole world in this game is just like one giant red barrel. You shoot generators and fuel tanks and all these things and they blow up. And the explosions are gorgeous. I mean, these are probably some of the best explosions you're going to see in a game. All the attention has clearly gone into those because the first time you do it, you're just like, oh, wow.
Yeah, definitely.
My problem with the game is that it doesn't really go anywhere from there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like after 30 hours, you're still basically doing the same thing. And those explosions, you're now kind of like, yeah, okay, I've done that 1,000 times by now. And it just doesn't really have any shape to it. It doesn't escalate. It doesn't really go anywhere. You could still use the same weapons you get at the start of the game by the end of the game, and it's exactly the same.
I mean, that sounds very similar to Just Cause 2. And when I played it briefly, a preview early in the year, it felt like Just Cause 2 with a few extra little bits. It looked nice, it had a wingsuit, but it was the same kind of fundamental rules at play.
That's fair enough, yeah. I mean, it is basically, you could call it sort of Just Cause 2.5, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I love Just Cause 2, so
sure.
I just think it's 5 years on now, and I just felt it needed to come back with, it needs to add something to the formula rather than just repeating the formula on next-gen consoles.
So the storyline that you played through, is it still like as super serious as it used to be in Just Cause 2? I always remember that was a bit of a clash for me, that you did these ridiculous things. The game is a playground to do silly things in. And then Rico and the characters that you meet all take themselves pretty seriously.
Not anymore, no.
Okay.
It's much funnier. I think in the review I sort of referred to it as it's like a Roger Moore Bond movie.
Right.
Directed by Robert Rodriguez, the sort of desperado guy.
Sure.
It's got that kind of tone to it. It's very aware of its ridiculousness this time around, which helps a lot because, like you say, you're basically going around blowing up towns and stuff. And, if it had that very serious kind of Call of Duty tone, it would be a bit kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
But because it's kind of got its tongue-in-cheek, it's got this... I mean, basically, Rico Rodriguez is a superhero now. He can fall out of helicopters and not die. He can fly with his wingsuit. I mean, it's not... You can't fly up into the sky and fly away, but you can glide for miles. So it's, he can jump up into the sky and fly across a mountain and all this kind of stuff. So... And he soaks up bullets like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I genuinely felt like I had God mode on it when I was playing a few months ago. The guy takes a beating. The way he casually lands after jumping off a helicopter or whatever it is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think the reason they've had to do that is because they want you to be playing around with this tether where you can, attach an exploding barrel to a man and shoot it and send him flying into the sky. And you wouldn't be able to do that if, you were getting knocked over every time you took a single hit. So they've actually made him into a bullet sponge so you can play with the physics, which is, like you say, it feels like a cheat mode. I don't know, it's one of those things I kind of feel like maybe it needed to build up to that. But because you basically start as this virtually indestructible superhero with a bazooka, with a machine gun, miniguns and tanks and armed helicopters, all these things are available right from the start. It doesn't really leave it with anywhere to go.
Yeah, I remember one of the differences this time around is you can, the way you call in weapons and vehicles, you could do that in Just Cause 2. There was kind of this black market fella that would come along in a helicopter and drop stuff off for you.
Yeah, you sort of order them from the rebels, and Rico's childhood friend Mario, he's actually invented an app that you can use to order stuff, and you sort of say, I need this machine gun, I need this rocket launcher or sniper rifle, and I need a helicopter or a car. It's always going to be a helicopter, basically.
Sure. Yeah. So why isn't that fun now? I guess that's the question, because it does sound similar to a game that I really really enjoyed. But I sort of get what you mean. When I played the preview, I felt like I needed something just a little bit more from it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a really good, fun game. It's just the fun runs out and you've still got another 25 hours of game to go. It feels like a really great action game spread out over, 30 hours of an RPG, and there's a discrepancy there that by the end of the game I was just, it's like, you need to go and liberate 2 more provinces, which means basically going into these, there's like 4 or 5 different areas in each province where you've got to bring them down, and some of them will be huge bases that can take up to an hour to clear.
Right.
And it'll say, go off and do 2 more of those, and you're like, God, really?
Right.
If you played half an hour a day, that would let you reset and kind of go, oh, I'm excited to be doing this again.
So I know Christian Dunlan's writing something for your game about that, actually. He's been playing it in that way exactly, where he can just dip into it for like a half an hour session, and then that's it. Because it is a game that allows you to do that very easily, because there are these kind of small objectives, and because it's set up like an open world playground for you to just go around and do stuff that you think will be fun. It does sort of work for that. But it's interesting to hear that, like, if you play through the main storyline as you think it would be intended, it's maybe not quite as
I mean, I still
interesting.
think that even if you're playing it a little bit each day, eventually you will get tired of it, because literally, the last provinces you clear are not massively different to the very first one you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the very end of the game, you do start to unlock some weapons that make it a little bit different, but really all you're still doing is blowing things up in a slightly different way, so it just feels a bit one note.
Right.
While that's a very fun note, it's not enough to sustain a 30-hour game.
Sure.
Regardless of how you play it, I think.
And I guess like one final thing we should probably touch on. I know a few people have been playing it in the office and have had varying degrees of technical issues. So I know the console versions have some frame rate issues, but then people that have been playing on the PC as well have run into some weird stuff. I think actually Donlan's game in particular is a good example. The ocean just doesn't appear all the time. So he's got some amazing screenshots of like just fishing boats flying through the air gracefully.
Yeah, no, I've not had that one. I've had it has a lot of technical issues.
Have you been playing on the PC?
I started playing on the PC and then I got the Xbox One code.
Right.
And I switched over to that because my PC just meets the minimum requirements.
Right.
Running okay, but it thought, well, I'll switch to the Xbox One version, and that basically plays about as well as my minimum spec PC did.
Right.
Frame rate is really bad.
That's a shame.
It's, especially in a game like this where it's all about blowing things up and physics objects flying all over the place. That is what tanks the frame rate, and that is what you're doing.
Is it specifically like when you start like making things explode, the game panics a little bit?
You will definitely notice it when you're doing that, but even just during normal play when nothing particularly crazy is happening, it will start to chug. And there's lots of sort of small glitches as well, like Chris was finding with the sea disappearing. Sometimes when you call in those drops, call in a helicopter, and because with these drops you have to use a beacon to do it, and you have to restock those at friendly bases, so it's not something you just go, I'm going to order another one. Once you've used up your beacon, you need to go and get another. When you call in a helicopter and it arrives on fire, or it lands upside down,
right,
or the crate that it's supposed to be in bounces off a bridge and falls into the abyss, it's not just like, well, that was funny. It's like, well,
that's actually just wasted time.
So yeah, lots of stuff like that. I was driving, I was racing, doing a checkpoint race in a sports car, and all of a sudden the car just vanished. I could still hear the noise of the car, but Rico Rodriguez was just standing in the road. It kind of feels like these kind of physics glitches are just part of the course with open world these days. It's,
sure.
It's a shame, but that just seems to be how these things go. But certainly the frame rate issues,
yeah, that's a little bit more forgivable.
Fallout 4 had a lot of frame rate issues as well, but that had a world that was so detailed and so immersive that you could kind of, forgive those wobbles. In Just Cause 3 it happens a lot more often. The world is not that interesting unless you're blowing stuff up. It's not like you can go and find little stories. There's Easter eggs around the place. There's like Thor's hammer on top of the mountain and stuff, but it feels like Toy Town basically. You've got all these like NPCs who just kind of look like they're from a 1990s game. They just kind of stand there and wave their arms in the air.
Sure.
So it's not a game where you really explore, because there's not much in the world to actually do. Those frame rate issues really hit it where it hurts, because it's an action game, and if action makes it feel like you're playing in treacle, then it
Yeah.
kind of cuts to the heart of what the game's actually about.
I should point out, by the way, that the gameplay we're using for this video was something we recorded at Square's office using their own PCs and their own kit. So this gameplay looks fluid, but I've seen Christian play it, and I've seen John in the office play it as well, and they both run into different issues, but both of them struggled with the frame rate. So yeah.
There's another weird thing as well that's been happening over the weekend is I don't know if Square Enix is doing something with their servers to get it ready for the launch, but although it's a single player game, there are sort of community elements whereby in the top right hand corner it'll say, you've done this many kills without reloading or whatever, and then it'll rank you according to other players, and then you'll get a little notification saying, this person's just done a longer drift than you and things like that.
Right.
It's kind of cute but inessential, but because of this it has to constantly be in touch with Square Enix's servers, and they've been up and down all weekend, and when it's offline the game will hang while it tries to connect.
Oh god, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that doesn't sound great.
And it's got a thing saying, trying to connect, and then it'll do
No, just forget about it. It's fine. Yeah. It's all right.
That for ages, and then when it can't do it, it'll come up and say, we can't seem to connect. Do you want to go into offline mode? And you're like, well, yes, please.
Jeez.
But offline mode still tries to connect.
Oh, that sounds ridiculous.
Every time you go into the map screen, every time you pause the game, and just sort of every few minutes in live gameplay, it'll stop and go, I'm just going to try and connect again. Oh, I can't do it. Would you like to go into offline mode? And you're like, yes, that's what I'm trying to do. So, I mean...
hopefully that is a pre-release issue, but even still, that's a surprising way for it to deal with
I think
the servers being down.
The server issues may be, because they're prepping for it, but certainly if that's the case, if the servers go down again once the game's out, it gets really annoying.
Right.
Every time you go to the map, and you need to go to the map a lot, because this is another thing that I honestly couldn't believe. They've taken away the mini-map and compass.
Really? Oh, right. Okay. So you have to judge everything.
Yeah. So
you can place subjective markers down, right?
You can, but in a game this size, to take away your compass and the mini-map just seems weird.
Yeah.
It's so useful, and instead you're having to constantly go back into the map screen to check where you are. And if the servers are down and you're doing that every time you go into the map screen, it's going to try and connect to the servers. So you've got another 2 or 3 minute wait.
Well, that's worth bearing in mind. Okay, well, it's a little disappointing. It's strange because I think maybe before having played it, before having spoken to you about it, if you'd said to me more Just Cause 2 running on the next-gen consoles with a few extra bits and pieces, that sounds like enough to me. Like, that's probably what I would have asked for.
I was really excited about it. Just Cause 2 was one of my favourite games last generation. I was really excited when they announced Just Cause 3.
Genuinely, having multiple tethers would probably have done it for me. That's all I needed. And then, when you actually play it, I know what you mean. It seems at times a little insubstantial.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years later, and
we've changed, Dan. We've changed.
We've grown old.
All right, well, thank you for your time, and your review will be going live on Your Gamer later on today. I think this video is going to go up for the midnight embargo, so that should be fun. Okay, cool.
All right, then.
Well, thanks, then.
No worries.
And I'm hoping that I can take off on this road. Oh no, maybe this is a bad idea.
Maybe the drop will hit a car. That'd be awesome. Come on. Oh.
I kind of want that not to happen. I want it to just be nice and quiet. I'm not sure.
How does that fit in the box?
It's fine.
Is it like a TARDIS in there?
It's fine.
I love the confetti though.
All right. So now, this may not be the best place to do it. Oh, please lift up. Please lift up. Oh, there are lampposts. Okay, we're fine. There we are.
Amazing.